Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this Township of West Lincoln Council meeting. This is meeting number 6, and it is Monday, March 25th. We're going to begin by standing for O Canada, please. Tonight it's being presented by Cairn Christian School. Please stand if you're able. Thank you. So we are a little bit late getting started tonight. We had a bit of difficulty, technically mostly, in establishing quorum, but we now have quorum for this meeting. Councillor Riley is online, attending by Zoom. Councillor Chichok, we presume, is on her way. We understood that she was going to come, but obviously she's been delayed for some reason. Councillor Bell, we're hoping, may still join us via Zoom. And Councillor Rayner sends his regrets this evening. And we have sitting in our CAO chair this evening, acting CAO Mike DePaula. So thanks for joining us. We're just getting started, Councillor. So before beginning this meeting, I'd like to make the following announcements. Comments from the public for a matter that is on the agenda may be provided in person by attending the meeting and advising the chair during the request to address an item on the agenda section of the agenda. Number 2, for those individuals that are unable to attend the meeting in person, you may, as always, submit comments for matters that are on any agenda by either 1, emailing nfiorentino@westlincoln.ca before 4:30 on the day of the meeting. And I hesitate because you would have to look up the clerk's office probably to find that. That's our clerk right now. Comments submitted will be considered as public information and read into the public record, or you can contact the clerk's department to request a Zoom link to attend the meeting virtually. And tonight's council meeting will be live streamed as well as recorded and available on the township's website by visiting events.westlincoln/meetings. We'll begin this evening, as always, with the land acknowledgement statement. The Township of West Lincoln, being part of the Niagara region, is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Hattahawkw, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The Township of West Lincoln, as part of the regional municipality of Niagara, stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live. And so, Councillor Broderick, you have the opening petition this evening.
Yes, I do. Thank you, Madam Mayor. We gather to make decisions for our community. May we use only our best skills and judgment, keeping ourselves impartial and neutral as we consider the merits and pitfalls of each matter that is placed before us, and always act in accordance with what is best for our community and fellow citizens.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillors, are there any changes in orders of the items on the agenda this evening? Okay, seeing none. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest and or conflict of interest? And I see Councillor Riley shaking his head negatively as well. So item 6 on our agenda is always the opportunity to address items on the agenda. 6.7 states that public comment at council. There shall be no comments from the public permitted at council unless A, a specific appointment has been scheduled, or B, an item is included under the other business or communications or appointments section on the agenda and relates to a matter which would normally be dealt with at committee. And our gallery is relatively empty unless our CEO of the library has anything that she wishes to address this evening. Okay, thank you. And our other guest this evening has actually an appointment, so that will be our next item on the agenda. So we were privileged to have with us this evening Jason Snyder, who was with the Niagara Crime Stoppers, and he's going to present an overview of the Crime Stoppers organization and community partnerships. So there is a spot there for you, Jason. Welcome to West Lincoln Council this evening. And members of council will show you that we are expecting two guests, but Mr. Britton was not able to join us this evening, and so Mr. Snyder's on his own with this presentation.
Madam Mayor, councillors, city staff, thank you very much for taking the time. The purpose of my visit today is to talk to you a bit about the Niagara Crime Stoppers program, what it is, but I'd like to start out with what it is not. What it is not is an arm of policing in any way, shape, or form. We have no connection whatsoever to police, and it's actually part of our mandate that we don't. Specifically for like financial, et cetera. The Niagara Region Police Services Board does provide a small amount of funding on a yearly basis, but through the police itself, we have no direct connection. They don't tell us what to do, and we can't tell them what to do. So the purpose of Crime Stoppers and what it is to allow residents of our cities to overcome fear of reprisal, to encourage the public to anonymously become involved in assisting the law enforcement agencies to get over the fear of being targeted if they were to talk about their, how do I switch the, sort of like a, sorry.
That is not an issue. We deal with technical issues quite frequently, so take your time and get it right.
So I want to talk a bit about what we have achieved over the last 3 years. I don't have the 2023 numbers collated yet, so this is the 3 years previous to that. In very high level terms, our total fundraising and sponsorships and donations and yielded like from every source whatsoever, we've been able to return back to the community $3.74, 374% of what we've been able to take in monies to run our program. We've been able to give back to the community 374%. So this is calculated through the drugs that were through the tipsters have been able to get seized off the street, property recovered, and cash recovered. So drugs seized over that 3-year period, not including this past year because I haven't collated that data yet, is $332,342 of drugs off Niagara streets. Property recovered, $379,980 of property recovered, and then straight up cash recovered, $273,623. That's a total seizure and recovery rate of almost $1 million, $985,945 that we've been able to give back to the community. So when I started this, I do the stats. I'm sort of relatively new to Crime Stoppers. I've been about 1.5 years, almost 2 years. And one of the first things I said to our chair was, like, how do you not keep statistics on what your success rate is? And he's like, good point, go do it. So I found that to be a really interesting challenge at the time. I'm a numbers guy in my regular job, so I went to find out what I can measure. And some of it I could measure. At the time, for those past 3 years, there was 5,057 tips received where a reward was wanted. At the time, we did not keep track of anybody who didn't want a reward. It looks to be at approximately, and I can't get specific numbers because we didn't really keep track, but it looks to be about 60% of the people who call in a tip do want a reward, 40% don't. Almost half, they just want whatever the behavior is that they're reporting to stop. But that works out to an average of 4.6 tips every day during that time, 32 tips per week. Again, during that time, our tips generated 125 arrests, 289 charges that were laid. These arrests and charges allowed our police to clear 84 cases off their workload, and we got 6 guns off the street of our community. Then the frustrating bit came where I was trying to do all kinds of figuring out how much money this saved the region, how much time it saved the police. I couldn't get a lot of that data. It took a while. I spent months trying to sort out the data until I came across a quote when I was frustrated one day saying, "Not everything that counts can be counted, and not everything that can be counted counts." So there's some things I can't measure. How many would report without guaranteed anonymity? There's no way to know. How many of these cases would still be under investigation? How many of these crimes would even be known? How much investigation time was saved? How many future crimes were prevented? How many officers were freed up to work on other cases? And how long would these 84 cases taken to close without those tips? Would all of them be closed or even known? And then, of course, with the guns off the street, did we save lives? Did we prevent an armed standoff? The basic questions that we can't know. So another big portion of what we do is we are an essential arm of communication. Every time this is just sort of a smattering from like newspapers, from the police website. If the police put out a call for information, they will always 100% of the time give our number, give the Crime Stoppers number. The newspapers will do the same. Pretty much any time anybody's calling out to action and they say, "We get it, you might be frightened, call this number," where you can do it anonymously. One specific case here would be, I'm sure you've heard of the homicide of Raymond Riley that was several years ago, where he put his truck up for sale, somebody showed up and there was a murder. We have a snippet from an email here from Detective Sergeant David Perini, who was the lead investigator on that homicide, who says basically they were stuck. They were at a standstill. They couldn't move forward with it. We put out a call to action. Crime Stoppers did. The police did. We got 4 separate tips, and the interesting thing is no one of those tips would have helped the police solve that case. It was the way each of those tips overlapped each other that led the police in the new direction. They were able to make an arrest and close that case. And that's the power of what Crime Stopper does. Now, our secondary program is about education and awareness. We spend a lot of time doing this. So a big one that we do is elder abuse. We got a grant to do this several years ago. That grant is, of course, run out, but we've realized that it's too important to just stop doing, so we're continuing to do it. And I'll put your mind at ease. I'm not asking you guys for money today, just so you're aware. But some of the things with elder abuse, there's targeted scams, targeted fraud, things specifically for the elder community that they're just more at risk of than the rest of us. So during COVID and the year afterwards, we've done 32 in-person presentations, and then of course there was the lockdown through that. We did 641 individuals educated via Zoom, which was a fair amount of work, but really mattered. It was interesting getting 600 septuagenarians to figure out Zoom. It was a task. And we have some other campaigns as well as our elder abuse. We have a human trafficking awareness, illegal dumping awareness, Fight for Youth campaign, an online shopping campaign, and we have a Be Aware, Take Care booklet campaign, which is sort of in conjunction with our elder abuse, which is sort of a quick reference guide for elders. If this is the sort of thing that's happening, here's your quick reference. These are the people to call. These are the things to do. These are the things to be on the lookout for. What we're working on this time is our human trafficking awareness campaign. We are working on getting a grant to start this thing. I know there's a lot there on the screen, but really what it is we want to talk to students. We want to encourage older students to talk to younger students, because I've tried talking at schools and nobody cares what a 40-something-year-old guy has to say about human trafficking at a high school. So what we're looking is to have grade 12s talk to grade 9s or grade 10s talk to grade 8s, that sort of thing. This, for us, is to be part of the vernacular. We teach kids to look both ways before crossing the street, and this is the same sort of thing. This came about specifically because I live in Welland, and my daughter was walking home from school, and there was a gentleman who was trying very hard to coax her into his car. She handled it very well. Honestly, I was probably more freaked out than she was freaked out, but she was freaked out enough that she, after saying no politely a few times, ran away, hid between some cars, and I did what you might expect, what any parent would do. I called the police, I called the principal, I called the owner of the store that it happened out in front of. When I spoke to the principal specifically, I said, do you teach these kids what to look out for? And he's like, well, we teach stranger danger in kindergarten. So this, of course, was grade 8. She's developing into a young woman, and there's a different type of animal that they need to be trained to watch out for. So that is the start of this program. This is what we're working on this year as well. So this comes to sort of an ask, and again, it's not monetary. The picture that you're seeing here is from Hamilton on the side of the road, where they got permission to put up a Crime Stopper sign on the side of the road, because as we do all these other programs, we want our base work, the calls coming in, the tips coming in from the community, we don't want that to drop off. We did see a drop off during COVID, as you may expect. There was less people out. We want to bring those numbers back up. We want to educate the people that the phone number is one way. We also have an app. We would like to be able to put up signs in strategic locations around each of the cities within Niagara region. And it wouldn't look quite like this. We would have another sign below it to get sponsorships. It's one of the major problems that we have now, is that we have all these programs and we have volunteers to run those programs, but 80% of our volunteers' time is spent trying to get money. We're doing 50-50 draws, we're doing, a million different programs, and volunteer burnout is a real thing. And I noticed from me specifically when I came in, I wanted to give elder abuse talks. I wanted to, educate people in schools. I didn't want to run up and down bleachers doing 50-50s. And so that's been a real difficult thing for us, to be able to bring people in and consistently bring in that sort of thing. So that's what we're looking to do going forward. And the goal is specifically, we want to be able to bring in enough money that we can cover our base costs. And we have a budget. We have something that we can move forward with. Those elder abuse handbooks that we hand out are, like $4 per print, but we've printed thousands of them, right? So this is what we're asking for. The City of West Lincoln will be asking from all the Niagara regional cities. I assume city staff will know kind of the best place to put those things for sort of a high traffic area. We understand there might need to be a staff report on this sort of thing, but that is the ask. So I did bring in, I got some updated numbers from the last 5 years, which I actually found quite interesting. From January 2019 to March 21st of this past March 21st, we've had a total of 10,479 tips. That is people who wanted rewards. We have given out $47,000 worth of actual reward money. This is obviously, it's a big chunk of what we do. We have done we have allowed, or our tipsters have allowed 210 tips, 423 charges, $1.1 million in drugs pulled off Niagara streets, and cash seized was about $307,000 over that 5-year period. I truly do believe that Crime Stoppers is a very valuable program to Niagara region, and that's my presentation. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to me.
Very interesting presentation. Thank you very much for coming before us to offer this information. I understand, too, that you are taking part in our forum in June, West Lincoln's forum. I don't know whether you specifically or whether just some people from your organization, but I think
our chair is, I believe, Ernie.
The invitation,
yes.
Yeah. So that's great, too. So it'll be another whole audience. But members of council, questions for our presenter?
Yeah.
Councillor Trombetta?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Snyder, for the presentation. Always a good service as Crime Stoppers is to obviously stop the actual issues that are going on in our community. The one question I do get from certain constituents is that, and I guess the way the world is going these days is that everybody thinks that their names are out there, their information is going to be out there. For them to just pick up their cell phone and call, they're afraid and I know Crime Stoppers has ensured that it's I guess, completely confidential. But how do we still get that message out there to say it is confidential? Because a lot of people are thinking that, their name's going to come across the phone. They're going to get, by saying something about some crime that, repercussions can come to them if that gets out there, and so on and so forth. How do we encourage, which we want to encourage more people to call if there's an issue, how do we encourage them that that's not going to take place?
So education is key for certain. I can tell you, maybe I can give you a quick rundown of the process of how it works. So if you were to call into the tips line, we have somebody trained to take tips. We don't have any record of who called. We actually pay the extra money, because used to you have to do extra for call display. Now you got to do extra to take call display off. We pay that extra. The people who take the calls are trained to remove anything that might be identifiable. So if you say it's my brother-in-law, they'll tell you, I'm not writing that down. Give me a name, not how you're related. They will also remove whether you're male or female by sound of voice, your accent by sound of voice, and you are referred to specifically as tipster. Now, a lot of people ask, well, if that's the case, how am I supposed to get my reward? Each person who calls in gets a tip ID number that is randomly generated by our system. And then we can't get a hold of you afterwards. So you need to check back in and say tip number X has qualified for a reward. And that's the only way. Now, to keep you anonymous while you go and actually pick up your envelope full of money, and it is actually an envelope full of cash, and we would tell you, tip ID, you've been approved for this is the reward, whatever it happened to be. You will go to this bank at some point during this day and just give them the tip ID number, and they hand you the envelope, and that's the whole transaction. So there is no way for us to know who you are at all, which means we can't be subpoenaed. However, the Supreme Court has now, 3 times, the Supreme Court has been challenged on where did this tip come from? Do we know this is a valid tip? This led to a charge. The last time that was just, I think it was 2009 or so. It wasn't terribly long ago, where the Supreme Court finally said, you're no longer allowed to challenge this. Crime Stoppers tips are anonymous. They will always be anonymous, and they will not approve getting that person, even asking for the name. They can't even subpoena us. For one, there's no one to subpoena. For two, we don't have the name. The only thing we can provide is kind of the nuts and bolts of what you said. But they are trained to tell you, don't say this. If it's my sister, then that narrows it down. So we don't put that stuff down.
Okay, that's good. Also, a follow-up question, Madam Mayor.
Go ahead.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Mr. Snyder. And where do we differentiate, obviously major crimes, Crime Stoppers comes in, where do we differentiate what type of crimes can be called in? Like if someone's driving erratically or DUI or someone that's littering, those calls don't necessarily come to Crime Stoppers,
Anything
correct?
anything that is an emergency that needs to be dealt with immediately, we really can't help. It has to go through that anonymous process, and that takes time.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Thank you for your time and appreciate your presentation. Thank you. Thank you,
Okay.
Madam Mayor.
Anyone further? Councillor Riley, any questions from you online? Shaking his head, no. Okay, go ahead, Councillor Bradford.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor, to our presenter, thank you very much. It was great to hear about how much has been recovered off the streets and the value of your program, but also very important to hear about the educational piece that is being, afforded to the community, in particular the elder abuse. My understanding is that you will set up kind of shop information type of sessions and
Yes.
in different venues, so to speak.
Yep.
And I believe we had somebody from your organization at our local arena to kind of assist with getting the word out. Can you just kind of talk a little bit about how that looks and how organizations could advocate to have you come to their venue?
So for elder abuse specifically, this is one where we go out and we actually teach a course, like projector, and we talk about the whole thing. So we've had a lot of reach outs from different arenas, libraries, old folks' homes, of course. They generally will reach out to us. It's through the Elder Abuse Prevention Network. We are a part of them. So they generally connect us with the people who need it. And then we send out, it's a very high level, these are the things you need to worry about. There's so many threats that are emerging. It's astonishing, actually, when you look at this whole AI voice cloning thing, where you hear your grandson say, I need $5,000, I'm in trouble. And if you hear that in your grandson's voice, so these are the types of things. But yes, they ask, we go out, or we will, usually when we go to one, they'll say, hey, there's this arena over here, or there's a group over here that might benefit from this, and then we'll reach out to them and try to set it up with them.
That's great. Thank you. It's good information for the community, for sure. Our family had a situation occur a few years back where a family member fortunately was stopped at Shoppers Drug Mart and asked why they were buying so many of the iTunes cards, and would have been quite a large loss of income for them. So getting that word out is particularly important to us. Thank you. Thank you.
Anything further? Last call? Nope. Okay. Thank you so very much for being here.
Thank you very much.
Oh, Councillor Riley changed his mind? Just a minute. Okay. Yes.
Yeah, sorry, can you hear me, Madam Mayor?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, so my question to you, maybe to our acting CAO, is can we put something, like a link to their website on our report of concern page? So for those of you who are familiar with the website, as soon as you click the report of concern, there's a kind of like, not a splash page, but there's a page before you actually go to the form to actually report your concern. And I think, I've heard from people who might not be sure necessarily which area to go, and I think it'd just be an easy way if we could just put a link to their Crime Stopper website, just a little extra thing where people can look at and think, oh, maybe this is something that isn't municipal problems. We've heard it, people aren't sure where necessarily to file all their concerns or complaints, and this just seems like an appropriate place to have it should people be on the search for it. And even if they don't necessarily see it, but it kind of like sits with them. If we're trying to advocate and promote this, I just think having another resource there that they might click and kind of help spread the word indirectly would be useful too. So I would just ask maybe staff go back and see if that could be included somewhere on that webpage. But otherwise, thank you to the presenter for your presentation. Very much appreciate the presentation and the incredible work you and your organization do. Thank you.
Okay, so,
Thank you.
Mr. CAO, acting CAO, did you want to respond to that for Councillor Riley?
We can definitely look into that and see what, if we could do that, but perhaps if council wishes to do something like that, we could put a council resolution together.
Okay, so if we want staff to look into that further, and actually at the same time, probably the other thing that we need is to look into our potential locations, or in terms of the ask, in terms of
For the
signage,
signs,
right?
yeah,
So we
for
need
that,
to,
we could come up with
okay, so
a
our
list
clerk
of-
is going to put together something to have staff
Sure.
look into that, so.
Yep.
Great. I'll follow up with you, and I'll kick you an email and with our website on it, and
Okay.
we can go from there.
So Councillor Riley, I don't know whether you could hear that discussion, but we're going to sort of combine having staff look into your suggestion on behalf of council, but also look at putting together something in regard to the staff looking into the potential locations and cost of signage to support this work.
Okay, I appreciate it. Yeah, on my end, because of Zoom, it cut out a little bit, so I didn't get the whole breakdown, so I appreciate that explanation.
So,
I'm okay with that. I think
part
that's a
of
good idea.
what you thought, by the way, just while the clerk's putting that together, where you thought you could not hear, we actually had some technical difficulty and nothing was being said. So you weren't really missing
Okay.
anything earlier.
Okay.
We were trying to set it up so the presentation moved forward appropriately. So,
Okay, yeah, I just sent a message saying if there's something being said, I certainly couldn't hear it early
yeah,
on.
no,
so
there was
I
nothing.
appreciate
There
that
was nothing
clarity.
being said. Dead air. So you missed nothing at that point. But
Perfect.
okay, so the clerk is still working on this.
While we're waiting for that, Madam Mayor, I just wondered if Crime Stoppers had a particular reason for the colors and the grouping. Is that something to do with the policing areas or patrol areas on your map?
It's the municipal zones. We just changed colors. We just changed colors to separate them. Made it pretty.
Good, because I
Yeah.
see a big West Niagara. Thank you.
Councillor Chichok, do you want to fill space with any other questions?
Madam Mayor, I've listened to the Crime Stoppers presentations in the past, and I am just overwhelmed at the amount of volunteer hours that are put into things like this that hopefully get ahead of the crimes, and that I would say it's not just the elderly, but it's the vulnerable that are out there.
Absolutely.
That are struggling and being put to great strain by calls that were not right. People who are just trying to get the best out of people who are hardworking. So I'm glad you're out there.
Exactly.
glad
And
that-
each time we have a presentation, we realize the vast number of volunteers in Niagara doing all kinds of good work. And we couldn't be doing as many of the things that we're doing without the volunteer grouping that we have all over. So, Madam Clerk, you ready? Okay, so go ahead, please.
Tell us what it takes to get a shirt, Madam Mayor. We should ask our guests.
We're looking for board members.
Oh,
We
there
give it
you
out for
go.
free.
I'm busy that night at the council meeting. But seriously, I think that, Madam Mayor, through you, what does a person who wants to join Crime Stoppers have to go through? Because if you're looking for not board members, but volunteers, what would they do? How would they approach Crime Stoppers?
So it's right on our website. It just says how to volunteer. You have to do a police background check, make sure you're, not nuts. But other than that, we are dying for people. So we do the background check. The board votes on it. I haven't seen any that were voted no, because we're in dire need of
As
you
are
may
many
expect.
organizations right now. Good, thank
Yeah.
you. Okay, thank you, Councilor.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. I have listed here 2 recommendations. The first being that the Director of Public Works be requested to work with Crime Stoppers respecting the placement of Crime Stopper signage on select roadways and to report back to a future Public Works meeting. And that the Director of Legislative Services be requested to review placing a link to the Crime Stoppers website on the Township's Report of Concern page on the website.
Okay. Does that satisfy what council members thought? And if so, we need a mover. Councilor Chichok, thank you. And a seconder, Councilor Trombetta, thank you. Councilor Riley, could you hear the resolution clearly enough? Okay.
I could. I'm assuming it's going to come up on our screen before we vote on it, so I can make sure I heard it correctly.
We were just making sure that it was in line with what people were thinking. So we now have a mover and a seconder. And now it's up on your screen, so please vote. Okay, and that resolution carries, so that's done. And thank you, Mr. Schneider, for your time
Thank you very
this
much.
evening. And that takes us to item number 8, which is regional councilors' remarks. So, Councilor Witteveen, you're up. So, yep,
Okay.
good. Thank you.
We have a microphone, so that's good. Okay, well, good evening, Mayor, councilors, staff, and members of the public. I'd like to start this evening by recognizing Justin Palov for his and staff, obviously, for sending out the weekly correspondence, which really helps me and having all the councilors informed of the local and provincial concerns on a weekly basis. So it's good to have that correspondence connection. So I just wanted to cover some regional updates this evening on some events that will be taking place within our region. First, the mayor and myself will be attending Niagara Week at Queen's Park. I hope I'm right to say that the mayor will attend. Didn't ask her, but on May the 13th, and it'll run to the 17th. The kickoff will be the 13th, and a number of issues and concerns will be brought on behalf of the region. Highlight topics will be construction of our South Niagara wastewater plant, consolidation of the housing master plan, shared services, sustainable funding for provincially funded mandate programs. So that will be an interesting evening. Second, we have the World Rowing event coming on August the 19th to the 25th. This is an 8-day event. They'll be hosted at the Henley Center in Port Dalhousie. We will have all heard and are preparing for the solar eclipse coming also on April the 8th. An update on every other week collection for the region. Now we have 3 years of data collected, And the summary goes like this. In 2019, before the changes, we collected 72,500 tons of household garbage, 3,226 tons of organics, and 37,369 tons of curbside recyclables. So now moving to the year end, we've collected 56,000 tons, 500 of household, 39,000 of organics, then 36,000 tons of curbside recyclables. So this, to make it easy, this reflects a 22% reduction in our reduction of basically collecting on the street, and has increased our organics processing. So these numbers are worth celebrating. I know it was challenging for us to make this transition, but it does give our landfill capacity extended life while we seek out alternative systems. On another public works note, plans are in the works to expand the volume of treated water at the Grimsby Water Treatment Plant this year to meet new and anticipated residential growth today and into the future. So it's good to see our tax dollars being spent to provide reliable infrastructure to our residents. So I just wanted to touch on a report on the physician recruitment review that we were presented last month. So some Niagara statistics go like this. We have 265 family physicians with 236 associated with mental health and long-term care enrollment model. And we have 15% of those 265 doctors are over the age of 65. So Niagara has a physician capacity of approximately 69%, which covers 329,000 residents. So lastly, our population has increased to 477,000, so we should have 346 family doctors, but in total, so we are short 81 doctors here in Niagara. And this leaves like 111,000 residents without a family doctor. So just for your information, the ratio of 1,380 patients per one doctor. So the challenges are the supply of doctors coming from Canadian programs, which is 400 every year, and this is this has to the competition goes in the region and the province and the country. So you can imagine the competition. So there was discussed that many strategies are being explored in trying to solve this challenge, increase additional resident spots to, and also to qualify new Canadians with past education from abroad on writing the qualified exams. These are but a few initiatives that are being explored, and I remember the challenges with physician recruitment for our residents here in West Lincoln in the past. So I don't have that data to know if we are in good shape in our community or not. Just to follow up on the child care and early years direction, there was given to the regional chair's office to request additional funding for the program in this transitional grant to support the additional responsibilities of a human rights issue. So staff will continue to engage with local municipalities on recommendations on each community's input for best practices. To note, it is complex but well laid out strategy as it is important for successful outcomes. So I just wanted to again thank you for allowing me to report on what's Niagara Region's working on for all our residents here. So if any councillors have any questions on my report, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you, as always, Councillor Woodavine, for a very thorough report. I appreciate personally that you do that each time. It means that that things get covered well. Members of council, anyone with a question for Councillor Woodavin regarding his report? Okay, so nobody in chambers. Councillor Riley, question, no? Okay, good. Thank you, Councillor. Oh, wait a minute.
I had my hand up.
Okay, I didn't see it. I'm sorry. So Councillor Chichok, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And through you to Councillor Woodavin, I wonder if there's been any studies done, and I would ask if you could perhaps look into this for us. As you talk about the reduced recyclables, January the 1st in 2026, there is a need to reduce the amount of plastics used in packaging of fruit and vegetables, produce. And actually, all the commodities purchased in your grocery store. A number of places have done this by going from hard plastics to soft plastics and lower weights, etc. Doesn't work too good when you have blueberries, strawberries, raspberries, etc. But the reason I ask that is, will that change the revenue streams for the region? Because you'll probably have more use of cardboards and plant-based materials squished to use as a container and or lighter plastics covering these, and there won't be as many things in bulk because you can't wrap them, is the way I've been told. So how will you buy your potatoes and apples, etc., all in paper, I guess? Will that cause a problem to the revenue streams for the region, is my question.
Oh, through you, Madam, am I still? Okay, yeah. Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Chichek. In early this year, we do not run the municipal recycling facility. We divested of that asset, and it is run by Mterra. So, as to answer your question, if volumes decrease or increase and revenues increase and decrease, it does not affect it does not affect our bottom line. But I will bring your concerns, as I sit on the Waste Management Planning Steering Committee, and there was discussion that was going to come through the, I guess, from the province more. We look for provincial direction, and they would work with the generators of these plastics. And I understand the challenges as you might buy blueberries from Chile or Peru.
They're meeting the reduction.
So,
I have to tell you. You
yeah.
just have to be careful when you pick up the package.
So, yeah, so definitely it's to reduce that volume or the weight of that product. So I'm sure it's a work in progress, and I do get the fruit and vegetable magazine, so I'm reading about all kinds of interesting new packaging ideas. So I think it will hopefully spur some innovation and maybe some more compostable or things that can be put into our organics program versus maybe the weight, we'll call it, recyclables is not organic. So if it can end up in that program. So I will follow that and share with you any updates that I gather along the way.
That's great, because I know there's change coming, and I think the average homeowner is starting to hear the chatter out there. So, through you, Madam Mayor, thank you very much, Councillor. But I thought about that too, and I wondered how I was going to get those raspberries home. I actually had an accident with some blueberries from one of the foreign countries where it didn't make it to my grocery cart. So. Anyway, and one final question, only because this is a bugaboo dear and nearer to my heart, but the 400 graduates a year from our medical schools, that's not all students that want to go into being a GP. So our doctor shortage, isn't it more really? Yeah, but
I would agree, through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Chi, I would agree with you, but we didn't have that information.
I understand.
At hand, and I understand that not everybody is going to be a GP. They may go in a specialty field. And the Mayor and I did have a presentation at Public Health from a group here in Niagara that are working to bring in, I guess, the new Canadians, the doctors that have are interested in practicing, but languages seems to be a barrier, so they're working with the hospital, the Niagara Hospital, because they're here and they're available and they're willing. So it's a matter of working them through the, we'll say, the system that's in place to get them in a practicing capacity.
So one last thing.
As nurses as nurses
I
as well.
hear you, and they're being successful, but
Yeah.
one thing more that if you could advocate, I know I've bent the mayor's ear on this constantly, but my dream of healthcare provided adequately for all people in need is that there are thousands of students internationally stuck outside of Canada that are Canadians, that have been foreign trained at universities that are recognized by our Canadian facilities, and they're not able to come home because there's no places for them to do their residencies here in Canada. And knowing that firsthand, I would tell you that it's somewhat of a frustrating challenge. So anyway, I look at all that education and all those smart little guys running around and girls, and or whatever you can say nowadays, and I know, Councillor Woodvine, that you're a great advocate, so just put that on your list of advocacy. Thanks.
Okay.
You've been directed, Councillor. Anyway, I appreciate this conversation between the two of you because you both are very knowledgeable about agriculture in our area and beyond. And so for Councillor Chichok to question you, Councillor Woodvine, about your impression about things and your ideas about things, I think it's worthwhile for all of us to hear those results. Okay, so moving on then. Thank you, Councillor, for your report. Confirmation of minutes. 9.1 are council minutes from February 26, 2024. And Councillor Chichok, you have those. Confidential minutes are under separate cover, it tells us. Did you lose it? Okay. Okay, so shall I read it and you can still move it and we'll find, oh, you found it, okay.
The minutes of the open session portion of the February.
Microphone, Joan.
Found it, but it's not complete. Anyway. Moved by myself, the open session portion of the February 26, 2024. You can take over from there, Your Worship. I've lost it.
Regular council meeting, and the recommendations contained therein be accepted, and two, that the confidential minutes relating to the closed session portion of the February 26, 2024 regular council meeting be accepted, and that the minutes remain confidential and restricted from public disclosure in accordance with exemptions provided in Section 239 of the Municipal Act. So you're still willing to move that,
I've
Councillor?
moved that, Your Worship.
And we need someone to second that, please. Councillor Bradrick, thank you. Any questions or comments about those minutes? Okay, then, Madam Clerk, we're ready for you. The vote's before you, councillors. And that vote carries. Thank you. Okay, Councillor Bradrick, you have the special council minutes from the meeting of March 19th.
Yes, thank you. Moved by myself that, one, that the minutes of March 19, 2024 special council meeting and the recommendations contained therein be accepted, and two, that the confidential minutes relating to the closed session portion of the March 19, 2024 special council meeting be accepted, and that the minutes remain confidential and restricted from public disclosure in accordance with exceptions provided in Section 239 of the Municipal Act.
Okay, someone to second those minutes, please. Councillor Trombetta, thank you. Any questions or comments about those minutes? Mostly they were confidential, so I presume not. So the vote should be in front of you. Okay, and that vote carries as well. So number 10 is communications, and it's listed under my name. As you recall, the last council meeting, we were supposed to have a visit from Stephen Sues. Stephen was unable to attend that night, as it turns out. But one of the things that he was hoping is that our council would also support the recommendation of the town of Lincoln who in fact supported the recommendation of the City of St. Catharines to look at calling for a comprehensive review and overhaul of the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act 1990. So just a little bit of background in terms of that is, you know, each time a state of emergency is declared, that means that an EOC comes into effect. That happens even with something at the region, but there is no really good way of getting out of that state of emergency. The assumption at the time was that it was something like a major fire or a major accident, not something that went on as COVID did for months and months and months, and certainly not something that the state of homelessness or poverty or addiction is turning out to be. They're not quick and easy fixes, and yet to declare a state of emergency means that you have to try to deal with that at a different level and in terms of an EOC being called. So the resolution was in your agenda package. Hopefully you had time to read it. I do have it if you want me to read it. If not, the recommendation is that, moved by myself and seconded by someone unknown at this point, that the correspondence received from Julie Kirkles, Town Clerk of the Town of Lincoln, dated December 14th, 2023, be received and supported. This has happened in various municipalities as well, and so this would be just simply West Lincoln also supporting what our neighboring municipalities are supporting. So do we have anybody prepared to second that? Councillor Broderick, thank you. Is there any further discussion on that before we call for a vote? It was a very lengthy resolution. I think that, you know, you've had an opportunity to read it, so I think, Madam Clerk, we're just ready for a vote. Thank you. So please vote on that resolution. And that also carries. Thank you. So that takes us to item number 11, which are my remarks. And so mine are a little shorter than Councillor Widevene's tonight, so stay tuned. It has been another busy time period since I last reported at our council meeting on February 26th. During the afternoon of February 27th, Team West Lincoln took part at the Big Brothers Big Sisters Bowling for Kids' Sake Corporate Challenge. Our team, consisting of 3 staff members, Barb Hutchinson, Noah Nickel, and Beth Odette, along with Councillor Cheechak and Riley and myself, collectively helped to raise just over $1,000 towards this worthwhile cause. And so special thanks to our bowlers and our supporters for this. Many staff members, I think, supported Barb, and certainly Councillor Riley supported as well, although he was unable to bowl. On the morning of February 28th, I had a meeting with Dr. Leslie Rigg, President and Vice Chancellor of Brock University, accompanied by 2 of her senior staff members who visited West Lincoln to discuss possible current and future collaboration opportunities between the university and our township. Some of this discussion was focused on the potential placement of co-op students in our various departments. That same evening, I attended the Public Information Center organized by our staff for the residents of Killens, Barbara, and Brook Circle to learn about the upcoming water, wastewater, and road work in their neighborhood. This was a well-attended session that was greatly appreciated by the residents involved. And thank you to Public Works staff for organizing and running this public event. So, Director, it was well received by the people who live in that area. I heard afterwards as well from them. The entire morning of February 29th was taken up by a meeting of the Niagara Older Adults Association in Thorold. It was the first time that this Niagara-wide organization of age-friendly advisory committees has joined together for an in-person meeting since before COVID, although there have been several virtual meetings. It was a great opportunity to share ideas and/or concerns and to hear about upcoming events throughout the region. I'm very pleased that our staff member, Brianne Parsons, was able to attend this meeting and that we now have a staff person attached to such meetings representing West Lincoln. The ability for her to network with her counterparts in other Niagara municipalities will help to enhance future programming in West Lincoln, as these regional-wide staff members also share their expertise in planning events and programs for the older adult population. On March 5th, I spent the entire day from 9 until 3 p.m. at the Cairn Christian School Heritage Fair. As one of several judges, it was my responsibility to review the grade 8 student booklets, discuss with each student their visual and oral presentations. There were 2 parts to their project. Engage in dialogue as they answered my questions about their work, and then eventually judge each of their projects. It was a long day, but provided a very enjoyable opportunity to once again interact with elementary school students. Early in the morning of March 6th, I had the pleasure of attending, along with Councillor Chichok and Regional Councillor Witteveen, the Chamber of Commerce event held at and featuring Big Country Raw. Geraldine Brower is a great speaker who competently relayed the story of their successful growth from their early, modest beginnings to becoming one of the fastest-growing companies in Canada in only a few years. We are very fortunate to have them situated in West Lincoln, where their story began. Also on March 6th, I was in attendance at the West Lincoln Community Care Annual General Meeting held at Smithville United Church, at which a great many longtime volunteers were recognized for their valuable service to this organization and our community in general. More than 70 people were in attendance, 64 of whom are regular volunteers at either the thrift store or the food bank. Our community is very generous with both their time and their resources. On Friday, March 8th, Councillor Chichok and I attended the International Women's Day celebration held at the Sheraton Fallsview Hotel and Conference Centre in Niagara Falls. This huge event, attended by men and women alike, honored the many women who widely contribute to the well-being of local businesses, not-for-profits, and municipalities throughout the region and beyond. March break for me provided an opportunity for a warm weather family vacation with my daughter and son-in-law and 2 of our granddaughters. I must say, however, that it was a bit shocking to return to the cold wintry weather of last week. Especially bone-chilling was the morning of March 20th when we raised the flag for Meals on Wheels in the strong cold wind. The sun did come out that morning as I did my ride-along with the Meals on Wheels volunteer Bonnie. Her sunny spirit and kind manner warmed us up as we delivered some warm and some frozen meals to several West Lincoln residents. It was apparent just how much people looked forward to her delivery and her short visit with each of them. I was honored to take part in those visits with residents, most of whom either live alone or are shut in due to health constraints. And finally, since we've made several delegations during the past years to both the Ministry of Transportation and the Ministry of Infrastructure regarding a new Niagara escarpment crossing, members of Council will, I hope, be pleased to hear an update on this situation. This afternoon at 3 o'clock, Acting CAO Mike DePaula and I attended a meeting at regional headquarters called by Regional Public Works Commissioner Terry Ricketts. A potential plan leading to the submission of the terms of reference and the accompanying individual environmental assessment for a new Niagara escarpment crossing was outlined to West Lincoln mayors and CAOs, and additionally the CAO and Deputy CAO of the region. Our input was solicited before the regional team working on this project presents it to the Regional Council Public Works Committee in April or May, so heads up, Councillor Witteveen, they're coming forward. And after that, their plan is to present to each of the 3 municipalities, to each council as well, so that people are aware of the plan moving forward. A public information center will also be held before going to the province for their approval of the terms of reference. This is a large step in the progress towards a potential new Niagara escarpment crossing, which could be of huge benefit to our future safety, well-being, and prosperity of each of our communities. And that's the end of my remarks for this evening. So that takes us then to report of committee. And so 12.1, Planning and Building Environmental Committee. Councillor Riley, you have that resolution, please?
I do, Madam Mayor. I move that the minutes of the March 4th, 2024 Planning, Building, Environmental Committee meeting and the recommendations contained therein be accepted, and that the confidential minutes relating to the closed session portion of the March 4th, 2024 Planning, Building, Environmental Committee meeting be accepted, and that the minutes remain confidential, restricted from public disclosure in accordance with Section 239 of the Municipal Act.
Thank you. And someone to second those minutes, please? Councillor Chichok, thank you. Are there any questions or comments about those minutes? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, we're ready. The vote's before you. Please vote. And that vote carries. 12.2 is the Administration, Finance, and Fire Committee minutes. And Councillor Trombetta, you have that resolution.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Move by myself that the minutes of the March 19th, 2024 Administration, Finance, and Fire Committee meeting and the recommendations contained therein be accepted.
And someone to second that? Councillor Bradrick, thank you. Any questions or comments about those? Seeing none, the vote will be before you. And it is. This is working well. hate to say that, just in case. Okay, Councillor Riley, did you receive the vote? Oh, good now? Okay, thank you. So Councillor Trombetta, you also have the Public Works and Recreation Committee minutes from March 19th, since you chairs that as well?
Yes, correct, Madam Mayor. I move by myself that the minutes of the March 19th, 2024 Public Works and Recreation Committee meeting and the recommendations contained therein be accepted.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Riley, will you second that, please, since I don't want to leave you out since you're out there? Okay, so Councillor Riley will second.
Yes.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? That was quite a short meeting. Okay, so the vote will be in front of you as well. So that resolution also carries. So we have nothing to reconsider this evening, and we do not have a notice of motion to rescind anything, so it takes us to other business. So members of council and council remarks. So Councillor Bradrick, we'll start on your side this evening. Anything to say?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a reminder to the community about the visit from the Easter Bunny that's happening this Friday. There's some great activities that are happening at the community center from 9 till 12. We have a petting zoo and face painting and, of course, a visit from the Easter Bunny and lots of chocolate.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Trombetta, anything this evening?
No, Madam. Well, nothing on personal. Just want to wish everybody a happy Easter weekend. It's a good time to get together with family on this weekend again. So then we'll have a whole month of not too much of a holiday until May, so enjoy this Easter weekend.
Enjoy the weekend while we have a long weekend? Okay, thank you. Councillor Chichok, anything this evening?
Other than hoping that the weather warms up, I wouldn't put away the winter parkas. There's still, Mother Nature still has a few more opportunities to surprise us, but I'm looking forward to spring colors, and I wish everybody a happy and blessed Easter, and good times with families. And if the Easter Bunny brings chocolate, be careful.
Councillor Riley, anything to add this evening?
Not a whole lot. Just to remind the public that our April Planning Building Environmental Committee meeting won't actually be till the 9th. It's on the Tuesday, the day after the solar eclipse. So stay well, everyone, until we see you then, and everyone have a good holiday weekend here.
That was actually a good point to make. It will not be Monday, the evening of the solar eclipse, and so
it is calling for a mix of clouds. So we'll see how that goes. So
yeah, we'll see what happens with that. But the fact that our meeting has been delayed till a Tuesday night is well worth pointing out. Thank you for that. Okay.
No problem.
Mr. Acting CAO, anything that you want to add this evening?
No, I'm good. Thank you very much.
Okay. And I'm sure that you're fine too, right? Okay, good. All right. So any items of new business this evening to be introduced? No, then that takes us to number 17, which is bylaws, and Councillor Bradrick. You were willing to read the bylaws this evening.
Yes, thank you. Moved by myself. 1, that leave be granted to introduce bylaws number 2024-16, 2024-17, 2024-18, 2024-19, and 2024-20, that the same shall be considered to have been read a first, second, and third time with one reading and are hereby adopted. And 2, that the mayor and clerk be and are hereby authorized to sign and affix the corporate seal thereto, any rule of this council to the contrary notwithstanding.
Okay, thank you. And someone to second the bylaws? Councillor Chichok, thank you. Okay, so we're ready for that vote. It's before you. And that resolution carries. Okay. So there are no confidential matters this evening, and so with all business now being concluded for this evening, I will declare this meeting adjourned at the hour of 7:45. Thank you.